Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Tony and this is my workshop, and if you are following me, you know that we are well and truly stuck into the build of this amazing SD.KFZ7, or the German half-track from the Second World War period. Another amazing full metal kit from Armortek, 1:6 scale, beautiful kit. And if you are following me, you know this is my very first commission build, and I'm building this for a really great guy called Peter Windmill, and I do keep in regular contact with Peter with updates, and he seems to be very pleased with the progress and also my methodology of building his kit. And in the previous video, we'll recap, I finished off the dashboard, and now that just set that to one side, doesn't need to go on at this stage, and we went ahead and we built the rear, sort of assembled all the parts on the rear equipment housing, and I'm really chuffed to bits with the extra detailing, with the extra rivets. I came up with a mod for the little discussion plate. If you haven't seen that video, check that out, because I just think it makes it all the difference. And I've got all the doors working as they should. So this is now ready to go into the vehicle, but before I do that, I'm going to do some weathering on it, and I'm going to do that in today's video. So today's video is going to be a little bit longer than normal, and I'm really sorry, and this front talky bit, sorry, is also a bit longer because there's a lot to talk about. I really want to try and get a chunk of work done today, so it allows me to move on to the next vital stages of the build. And that includes, I want to weather this, so I'll do that in real time with you. There's the floor, which sits in the front of the vehicle, and there's parts that need to go onto this at this stage rather than putting this onto the vehicle. So there's quite a lot of work to do on this, which we'll cover this off today as well, hopefully if I have the time. I also want to go over a couple of mods. This is my little rubber mud flap that goes on the rear of the mudguard, which I mentioned previously. So I've done a bit of a test on that. I'm really pleased how that's come out, and I'm going to show you how I'll do the other one, and then we will get those onto the mudguards. So I want to get these on ahead of putting the floor system onto the main vehicle. And as well as that, there are other parts to go onto the floor. I think it's right to put them on now rather than put the floor on and then sort of try and attack all the other parts. And one of those is this little equipment box which sits next to the driver. And when it arrived and I unpacked it, it's just it's a metal box with a simple metal lid, but it doesn't look right to me. And I'll explain more when we get into this in this session. But I'm going to turn this into something that actually looks right. And I've got some photographs which I'll share with you to demonstrate why I'm doing this. And I've also got to do, ahead of putting the floor in, I've got to do some more work on the cabling, because there's some charging cables I need to install to help Peter charge the vehicle when he's at home, and I need to run those from the batteries which are at the front of the vehicle all the way through to the back. And of course I don't want to see these cables, so they're going to have to go onto the floor. So lots and lots and lots to talk about. Before we start, I just want to say another massive thank you to all of you. All those subscriptions are amazing. Those comments, please keep them coming. Of course, those thumbs up. And if you have just landed on my channel, please think about subscribing, because there's a huge amount of work still to be done on this amazing vehicle. And I do have some amazing news which I will share with you in a couple of weeks' time about my next project. Anyway, now I'm going to reposition the camera. We'll get into weathering this, and once this is all weathered, we'll then go on and start looking at all the parts I've already talked about. So I'll now reposition the camera and we'll get stuck in. Okay, so first things first, I've started doing the weathering just to do some testing on it. I'm really happy actually with the results. I've got my streaking paint, I've got my old brush, a bit of tissue, just to take the worst of the majority of the paint off the brush, because we're going to do like a dry brushing. But it's also important that you have a separate bit of tissue like here to wipe off any excess, because we don't want to over weather this. I've agreed a level of weathering with Peter that he's happy with. Just going to make sure that. So I've started picking up just on, you know, some of the door handles and things like that, and in particular around the escutcheon plate, where I think that the majority of the weathering would occur, and I'm just applying it and then almost removing it. I'm being conscious, also very conscious, I don't want to emphasize things. I think a little bit around the tail light, which I've now removed the masking paper, and again just using that tissue just to spread and smear that around, almost to make it look more natural. And this subtle level of weathering is all we need. I just think it just gives it a little added I'm going to put a little bit more down around here because it probably would get a little bit grubby down the bottom of this. Now, just as I said, I'm just using this bit of tissue. Not sure if that's coming out because of the angle I've got on here. Let's go back around this light. I do enjoy doing this part of the build. I've also done a similar thing to the front seat bulkhead, and when we come to look at the floor, I'll show you how that's come out. I'm getting very pleased with that. Just trying to build up something that looks quite natural without going over the top. The secret is not to have too much of this streaking paint on the brush. That's sort of getting to where I quite like that look. I'm going to start working along this edge here. Again, I'm not sure if it's starting to pick up on the camera or not. Now the brush is perfect. It's just about got the right amount on for me to just start just applying that lightly. Are you picking that up on that? Not sure if it's coming out on the camera. Right, time to do it a bit more. And we're going to start, I'm going to put some on this edge here. Then just wipe that off. Just to get that sort of shape to it. And then we can go back in. Now there's a little bit more paint on the brush itself. Pleased with that. Just hit that handle around this discussion plate and those rivets in particular. I'm conscious that these are just glued on, so you don't want to be rubbing them too much. I mean, they can take a bit of abuse. And then just using the dry brushing technique just to pick up the edge of the frame. Is that coming out right? I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I think that's coming out right. We'll come along this edge at a later point, but might have to put a bit more, just use what's on the tissue. Just hit this edge here, weathering on the edge of it. Oops, hands are cold. I don't know what's going on with the weather in this country. Time of filming this is we're coming to the end of February. My videos do tend to lag a couple of weeks behind. It's only because of the editing and everything else. So when I do comment on your comments, try not to spoil the surprise where I am on the build. But yeah, look at that. I'm really pleased with that. It's coming out lovely. Just hit that handle. That's really smart. I think I really like that. I'll start working around this discussion plate and those rivets. Really pleased with that. I think it looks really smart. Don't think I'll do too much more on that. And just hit this edge. There's more work to do on this. There's an equipment cage that goes on top of this, and little cleats, so they all need to be put on and then touch painted, or so not too concerned, because this could end up having a bit more work to be done in terms of weathering and painting, but this gets it. It's just hitting those hinges. And I will, before I hand the vehicle over to Peter, I will go around and do some other light weathering on it where bits are not picked up or missed. I think in terms of where we are right now, I think that's all we need to do. So let's just turn that around so you can see. I think that's achieved what I wanted it to achieve. Just maybe take that. This paint that I'm now using, King's Army paint from Monster Colours. It's so good. You get such a good finish on it. And it's really robust paint. So that's that. I think that looks pretty good. What do you think? Anyway, I'm pleased with that. Next thing I'm going to talk to you about is this little equipment box, because I want to get this painted while we're doing other work. So I'm going to clear this off and we'll come back and we'll talk about this. So the part I'm talking to you about here is this little wooden box here. Sorry, just sits next to the driver's seat, and it is wooden and it's got a metal lid on it. What we get as part of the kit, I'll move this out of the way, is this box here, metal box, just a simple metal box. And I just felt it wasn't, you know, to paint that, it wasn't right. So again, I've got this balsa wood, this really smart balsa wood, which I've got left over from many models. But this is a 5mm, very thin, 1/2 mil gauge balsa wood. And I've started applying to the sides. I thought, well, you know, I was going to just do this, and I thought, no, I think it'd be something that'd be useful to share with you. And I've already cladded both of the long sides with this, and I just need to trim off the edge. And then we have the lid as well. And I don't know if you can see on the lid, but where it's been formed, you get these holes in the corners, which wouldn't be the case. So I'm going to use the balsa wood to clad this, and then once this is cladded, I'm going to get this painted in the Dunkelgelb, and then here I'm just going to do a light varnish with a very light stain on it so that it can look more like wood. I've also just primed the inside of the box. Well, I haven't primed it, I've primed and painted it grey. And then there's a couple of holes here that will be used to secure it onto the floor. So this is one of the jobs I feel that is really important to do now. And all I'm doing here is just using super glue and a scalpel. Just trim the excess off. Turn that round. So that's that trimmed. Now I'm going to clad, just using super glue, the two short ends. Initially what I'm going to do is just cut a series of them at a particular length. Just cut. I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just using normal super glue, I'm going to apply the very first one. What I'm going to do is I'll pop the lid on, so I've got something to gauge it with. I'll put the first one. That's the first one on. Now we can comfortably add the others. Look, this is it, and again, this is a job that you don't have to do. I just feel that with the level of detail that we're going to on this, I think it sort of lends itself to doing it. And I will, if you get glue on this, don't worry, because I will be rubbing it down with a very fine sandpaper. The glue go off on that, and then when that's gone off, we'll just trim the edges. Do the same here. Again, I'm just using the lid as a bit of a gauge, but now we're going to just do some more trimming. Get a rough idea of the size we need. the lid on, just so that I know where to start them from. Once that's on, take the lid off. Don't want the lid inadvertently getting glued to the top of it. Just going to apply the glue right across the face of that now. Just use the bit of balsa wood to spread the glue about. And then just leave that to go off, and then once that's gone off we'll trim that. Right, while we're waiting for the glue on that to dry off, we'll just start looking at the lid. So I've got all of these cut, and by some good virtue they seem to work after I've tested them across the width. So I'm just going to start applying the glue. Do half of it first. Spread that. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be rubbing all this down anyway, so I'm not bothered about getting a bit of glue on the surface of it. And then ultimately it will be painted in the Dunkelgelb. I just think this is going to be so much better than just a metal box. Don't get a lot of time to work with the old super glue, but enough time for us to get this on, I think. And I know this might be a bit time consuming, but I just think that the results are better. And the last one. Look at that, perfect fit. That's more luck than judgment, I can assure you. But if it was not, you can always trim this little balsas down. So that's that. I'm just going to let that sort of go off and bring this back in now. And we can trim the edges of this. I'm not pressing too hard with the scalpel blade. Just going over the same line. That's fine. Rub the edges down on that. And if you are doing one of these projects and you don't have anything like this lying around, balsa wood wise, it's so cheap to buy online. You get so much of it. Now, it's going to just take the sharpness off the edge of that. Now we've got a lovely little wooden box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a bit of the acrylic varnish with a little bit of brown to give it a very light stain. And then while we're waiting for this to dry, we can trim this up, and then I'll get this painted in the Dunkelgelb. Get rid of the glue for now. We'll need that. Right. So I've got my little mixing jar. That's on the underside in case you think that's in there. Just put a bit of varnish in there. Going to get a bit of brown. Only a little bit. Mix that up. And then just give it a light coating of that. I don't want it to be dark, I want it to be fairly light. If it dries that colour, I'll be very pleased. And I think once this is all painted up, it really will make the difference. Again, it's only a small detail, but you add all these little details up and all of a sudden you've got something that looks really smart. That's it there, look at that. So I'll just pop that there, pop that there, come back to the lid now. So I'd like to think that that lid is now dry and we can trim the edge of that. Just putting a bit of pressure on that leading edge. And the finishing touches will be, we'll just put a piece on the end. Perfect. Just a bit of glue's attached itself there, so that's that. Now the only thing I'm going to do now is pop. It just needs to be trimmed off a bit there. Only me being a bit fussy. Okay, now I'm going to just cut a piece and glue it on the end of that. Again, I'm going to oversize the cut. If you can hear that knocking, that's my son outside doing some woodwork. Just in case you think it's my knees knocking. Right, so I'm just going to apply that to the edge, lay that flat down on my mat, cutting mat, and use that and just turn that round and do exactly the same thing this side. Let the glue go off and then we can just trim that and rub that down and get that painted. That's it all trimmed up now. Just going to give that very light sanding on the edges. Just a light sand on the top. Nice and smooth. Make sure that fits. Look at that. So I'm going to paint the top now in the Dunkelgelb, and then that is ready to go onto the floor whenever we're ready to put it onto the floor. So I'll go away and do that and then I'll be back. So that's the lid done. I'm really pleased how that's come out. There's the box. Look at that. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And a lot better than just trying to paint up a metal box and seeing all. So I'm really pleased with that. So we can park that up. That's not going to go on just yet. Right, let's talk about the mud flap. So this is what I've previously made. I've already cut the piece of rubber, another one identical size, just using a Stanley knife, and this is around about 2mm thick rubber, and I've put a brass plate either side of this to add some weight to it so it gets that bend on the bottom. And I have tested this to make sure it doesn't interfere with the tracks, and it doesn't, and actually it really just sets the whole thing off. Might have to weather this rubber because it is brand new. So I've got two brass strips that I've cut from a longer piece of brass, and this is 2mm thick brass, and again I bought this on the old Tintinet, and I've cut them down to the same width as the rubber. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scribe a line using, what am I using, that plus a straight edge. I'm just going to use my cutting mat to give me a guide for the line. I'm not using a pencil, I'm just using a sharp scribing tool. That gives me a perfect line down the middle for me to use my spring-loaded centre punch to to allow me to pilot a hole through it. Now I'm just going to use, again, I'm using my cutting mat, and I'm coming in 10mm from one end, 10mm from the other end. I'm only going to put 3 studs in this, and I'm putting one right in the middle, again just using the grid on my cutting mat. So that's that marked out, ready to drill. So I'm just going to use my 1.5mm drill bit to drill through this soft brass, and then I'll come back. So that's both of the flat bars drilled. I'm just going to line that up on the bottom like that. Line this one up over the top so I can align the holes in the rubber. I'm going to use my spring-loaded center punches to mark the rubber. So that's the holes now marked in the rubber. I'm going to drill those out of my 1.5mm drill. So that's the holes drilled in the rubber. The only thing I want to do now is I'm going to put some of these copper studs through. Just one of these. This side, this is the leading side. And I'm going to glue these in place, and then I'm going to spray both of these and then come back and then install them onto the rubber. So we can do that now. Just by putting a bit of super glue on the edge of that and into the hole. Push that through. I've made the hole slightly bigger than the stud, so allow me a little bit of movement and a bit of tolerance. And these jobs, this job hasn't really taken that long, but I just think that extra level of detail will look amazing on the finished vehicle. And the last one. I did contemplate installing these and then masking everything up and then painting it, but I thought against that, because I quite like the sandwich effect you get with the rubber. So that's that. So, oops, stuck my finger to it. So I'm just going to let that glue go off, and then once that's off, I'll get those painted and then we can put them on. Right, so I've moved the camera angle around because I'm going to show you, I'm going to do these and then I'm going to install them onto the mudguards themselves. So I want to show you that. So I've taken the camera away from its normal hill. Right, these are all painted, so I'm happy with that. First thing I'm going to do now is, oh, actually, I just wanted to say you that, I don't know if you can see that, I'll put a pencil mark 30mm down. So that's the part where it's going to line up with the bottom of the mudguard. That's coming out in the camera, but anyway, that's that. Now I'm just going to put some glue along the edge of this. Going to pop this in. Push that onto the rubber. And then position that over the top of that. Just push it all firmly together and wait for that glue to go off. And then once that glue's gone off, I'm going to do a bit of weathering on it. I'll just use the bench sander to take off the excess of the copper studs on the back of this, and then we're ready to put them onto the mudguards. Right, so what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to glue using the B7000 glue, because it has got some flexibility in it. I'm going to apply some of this glue, quite a liberal amount of glue, on the back of the, well, on the front, sorry, of the rubber. Just pop that there for a moment. Do the same on this side. I like this glue because it's got flexibility with it. Pop that back on. Now I've got my line that I'm working to. I'm going to just move that up to the line and tight against this side of the mud guard, and hopefully I can get a clamp on that. Just using a bit of the offcut of the rubber to protect the paintwork. And that, I'm just checking it's aligned perfectly. So I'm just going to let that glue go off now. And then once that's gone off, as I said, we'll drill through and then we'll put the copper studs in. And then what I'll do is I'll mask off some of this and the mud guards, and then I'll just spot paint the studs so that they blend in. And of course, at some point in the distant future, I will be weathering the whole thing. So it will get some weathering on it as well. So I want to do that. Going to give the glue a little bit of time to go off so I can finish this job. And then once I finish this job, we're going to start talking about this floor panel here. So I removed the clamp from here and I've drilled the holes through. Now it's just a matter, hopefully, of me super gluing these into position. I'm going to use the little forceps. And then push that through. I want that glue to pick up on the stud as well, because that will help hold this in place if the glue ever did fail. I did contemplate using fasteners, but then I don't really want to show the head of the fastener. I think that these little copper studs will do the job perfectly. And as I said, once I've done all of these, then I'll wait till the glue goes off, and then I'll do a bit of spot painting on it, just so that job is complete. All these little jobs I've got on my little list of jobs I'm keen to finish to allow me to move on. Just pushing that rubber so it's tight up against the little stud. Yeah, all these little jobs I've given myself, really. I mean, this isn't part of the build, the Armortek build. This is just part of the Tony's Workshop mods, and showing you, what's available for you in the way of ideas. Look at that. I think that looks really smart. Again, once these are painted off, really like that. I'm going to do a bit of weathering on that rubber. I think it's still too shiny, so that's fine. And I'm going to just go through and drill this now. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through my hand. It's going really slowly. I've got my fingers separated at the back. Ever so gently. That's that. And we do exactly the same thing again. Just feeling that through the other side where the hole is, and then pushing it through so it presents itself. I could just feel the end of the stud. These studs are 6mm long. I've got a 3mm head, so they pretty much match the ones on the front of the wheel arches. I'd really like to know what you guys think in the comments of this little mod. That's it. That's it, done. Really pleased with that. Now I'm going to work out the best position for the camera to start talking about the floor plate. I may even bring this back onto my workbench. Okay, so a couple of little jobs I want to do first. One is our little equipment box, which is now beautifully finished, and I just really like that, the way that's come out. Really do like that. Now that's just fitted in with a couple of M3 button fixings. So let's do that, and I'll probably leave the lid off in case I inadvertently turn it over and forget about it. Get the right fixing. And there's a nut that goes on the back of this, so this is going to require some thread locker. So I might as well just get this box installed. So I've elevated this floor, one, so I can do this, and two, because I don't want to crush the mud guards. I'm not going to bother painting those fixings either. I'm just going to turn that round like that. And you can imagine if you had the tracks on and everything else, and you've got this flooring and you put it on, then you've got to try and get underneath and fix this. It makes life a little bit difficult. So far I can see all the holes that I'm going to need to fix this to the chassis, and I can see no reason why I can't tackle this the way I am. So that's that. As I said, the lid will go on it, but for now I think the safest bet for me would be to take that off. Right, so then we have the front seat, which I've painted. This goes into position like that, and it's secured with a couple of fixings on this side and one this side, and it's going to be a little bit tricky because just getting access with the angles. So I'm just going to pull that away, use this tool just to line it up on the hole, do the other one as well, so I can see it on the hole, and then I'm going to use the ball end fixing to take that in. Not using thread locker on this because it's going into the aluminium bulkhead, this main front seat bulkhead anyway. It's only because of the angle, but this little ball end fixing, or sorry, tool, hex tool, is brilliant. And I've got one more over that side. There is another hole underneath it, but that's obviously not intended for this. Don't know what that's for yet, but we'll find out in the fullness of time, I'm sure. Just a bit stubborn. Let's get in there though. Right, so that's that. And then the floor plate, which is something I've already primed, gets bolted to this here. But before I'm going to do any of that, there's the brass plate to go on top of this, which, if you like, gives you that checker plate finish. And then all these holes here are all for the gears and everything else, which need to go in now. So I'm going to do that, then we'll get the brass plate on, and then it's a matter of, do I bolt this on now? I think I will, once I've got this brass plate on. Not sure what's involved and how long that's going to take to bond to this, but we might as well do that next. Right, so this is the brass pan, or the brass panels I should say, that come with the kit. Now I've taken it out and it's been flat packed and with a weight on it ever since I got it from Peter, and it still has got a tendency to want to curve, and we have to put a couple of folds in this, and the fold lines are clearly visible on here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a fold line here and a fold line here, which will replicate the alignment inside here. First thing I'm going to do though is actually remove this from its sort of little template, because I need to put some weight on that to allow it to flatten out. Look at that, like a banana. Right, so we'll put that there for a minute. I'm going to put some weight on that and see if I can get that to reform. Not sure. Anyway, put that to one side for a moment. And then we've got the two side steps. And these are the like two flanking panels here that sit either side of the footwell. So they'll sit in like that, and it's got a bit of checker plate on that as well. Let's put that there. So I'm going to remove those from its retaining sheet. I mean, they are really thin gauge brass, but I'm sure we can get them flattened out. Right, and that just, unfortunately, that's a lot of waste, but it goes in the bin. So the idea is this folds inside here, something like that. And these holes here all align with the holes in here, and we also have the pedals and everything else. So I just think that now is the time to put all this together, because trying to do this when it's installed in the car, I don't know. So I'm just going to go and get all the bits I'm going to need for here, and then I'll be back. Right, I think I've got it worked out. I took a bit of head scratching, but I think it's important to, as I said before, take a pause and think things through. Right. First things first, chicken and egg really. All these parts here need to go on here, but they will be bolted through this plate here into this, or through this, and then into the various blocks. So the very first job I'm going to need to do is to get this plate on here. Now I'm going to try and do this without trying to bend it out of shape or back into shape. So I'm just going to score down the center line, and I'm going to use the grid on my mat to give me a pretty straight line. So I'm just going to pick a line on the grid, move my straight edge into position, and it's a bit, because of the texture of it and because it's a bit bowed, it's a bit tricky, but there we go, I've got it there now. Position it there and there. I'm going to hold that down, and then I'm just going to score should give me a line to bend it to. Yeah, I can see that, and now we can do exactly the same on this part here, because that also needs to be scored. When you're scoring this, be careful you don't cut right through it. Right, now using my straight edge again, probably go this side of it actually. Let's see if I can tease this up. Pop that into there now, and using this as a almost as a pattern, see if I can get that to bend into shape. It's kind of going. Might need a little bit of encouragement. I think that will go. I think that will go. You can see it's no longer bowed. So I think that along that edge there it's going to go. Might do is get some clamps on it. Also make sure we align up the holes. On that side. I'm just going to go and get a metal straight edge and do some tapping with that to get that to eventually find its position in that groove, in that crease I should say. Right, I'm just using this flat aluminium bar. Going to work along that edge. Sorry if the noise and if the camera is shaking, apologies for that. I can see a really nice crease in that now. That's pretty good. Right, I'll just take these clamps off and we'll start working on this edge. Right, with the clamps removed, I can now get this on here. Start working. That's that. Now we'll try and do exactly the same thing on this crease or fold on this top edge. So I'm going to put the clamps back on again, stop that from moving. Make sure it's all lined up. There's no instructions to how to do this. This is just coming from a bit of knowledge and a lot of hope. Right, so I need that to fold into that. So I'll use my fingers initially just to start the bending process off. That's it, it's starting to go. That's pretty good, I think. It's all got to be bolted together, of course, and it's all got to be glued and clamped and everything else, but I think that's pretty good. It's in there. It's tight on the angle. Just looks slightly oversized for me, for my liking, but I think it'd be alright actually. I think it'll be fine. I think once we start getting some fixings into this and you get some glue and clamps and everything else, I think that's going to be fine. So that's kind of the principle of it. Like that. Just looking down the eye of that and it looks all right. Yeah, so first things first, I guess, we're going to have to glue this in. But what glue to use? That's the question. I'm going to use the, I don't know, need to think about the glue. Let me do some head scratching and I'll come back. Okay, decision made. I'm going to use some clear contact adhesive. Right. I'm going to do this surface and this surface, but I'm going to leave this surface here until these are set, and then I'm going to pump some glue into this and then clamp that, because I think if I'm going to try and clamp it across 3 different aspects, it's going to be really tricky. So let's apply this glue. This stuff is pretty good. It goes off fairly quickly. Still gives you a little bit of time to work with positioning. Glue onto that surface. As I said, we'll leave this top edge for now. Now, sometimes if you leave this glue for about a minute or so, it can contact straight away, but I want it to be a little bit flexible because I want to basically get this glue, move it around a bit so I get a full coverage of it. And on this side, I've got a piece of plywood somewhere there. And I'm going to put that in there and clamp that. Same that end. Hopefully that'll apply the same level of pressure across all of that. Now I'm just going to slowly start working that. Oh, it's moved. Oops. Just see that actually move. Right, okay, that's better. Right. Just apply some pressure to this. Just apply that on there. I think that feels right. Feels like every part of the brass is in contact with the steel. That looks fine. So now it's just a matter of time. So a great little job to do while we're waiting for the glue to go off is to look at some of the parts on here, which I can't put them in just yet, but there are some bits of work to be done ahead of being installed. Right, so you get these two little pedals here, which are just flat rectangle blocks of, or pieces of steel flat plate, and they just glue onto, let's pull that to one side, they glue onto two of the identical size pedal rods. Let's move the gear shift out of the way. And there's a smaller one. The smaller one is used, I think they're calling that the accelerator pedal. It just looks like a washer and a bit of rod, so nothing too exciting. And then we've got these two rods here. Now I don't want to leave it like this, and I don't know if you've ever saw my Series 1 Land Rover. I use a similar kind of mesh just to give that sort of throttle pedal a more realistic look. So let's, while we're waiting for the glue to go off on that brass plate, I thought we could do a couple of these little jobs. First things first, let's get some glue on the back of, so I'm just going to pop that and position that. I'm just going to pop a bit more glue on that. And why am I doing that? Because I've got this mesh here, and I'm going to apply that mesh to the face of that little pedal. A bit more glue. Sorry, little block of glue in it. Just holding out a bit of pressure. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back of that. Just like that. And when that goes off, I can trim that, and then at least it looks like a proper pedal rather than just a piece of flat metal. Apply the mesh to that. Again, when this is all painted up, I think it will look an improvement on just a flat piece of steel. I'll pop that in my vise. Right, then the only thing left to do with this is this little, just effectively as a washer, I think, from the looks of it. Just gets glued to the end of that. Just keep that fairly flat on the end. That's it. Just a little dab of glue. And I don't think we need to put any mesh on that particular part, that one. Right. Next thing is the handbrake. I'm not sure if the camera's picking up on this, but it's a flat piece of steel. There's a hole through that, and there's a fixing that goes through into this block here, and I guess it allows it to be a little bit of articulation on it, which would be, that's quite smart. But because all this is all flat cut, this part here would be the grip or the handle to allow you to hold it and to pull the handbrake up and pull the brake, the parking brake on, but it's square. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it over to my bench sander, and I'm just going to round off this end, just this bit here and this bit here, which will be the button, because I'm planning to paint that button silver. I'm going to check my reference photographs. I might have this black and the rest of it is in the Dunkelgelb. So, and also this cut edge here is really sharp, so I'm just going to smooth that all off as well. So again, another little job to be done while we're waiting for the glue to go off on the floor plate. Okay, so that's now back off my bench sander and a useful little file as well, but I'm quite happy with the fact that that's now turned and now round, and the button looks more defined. So when it's all painted up, I think that's going to look really smart. No more work to do to that just yet. I've done one of these pedals. I've zoomed in the camera so you can see just the difference. I just think it makes such a difference. So we're going to do the next one here, this one here. So that's, the glue's gone off, and I'm just going to trim. Well, firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend it round on its along the long edges. So I want that pattern to wrap round the edge of the pedal. Again, all these little jobs, and I keep saying it, but they all add up to that when you've finished your kit, to adding to the detail. Just give that a bit of a haircut. And because this is really soft aluminium mesh, I'm able to manipulate that around. See the difference? Again, when it's all painted up, just want to put a bit of pressure on that. Yeah, when it's all painted up. One other thing that just struck me is that one other thing that strikes me is the fact that that's now going to be really solid. It's not just held in with a bit of glue on the rod, and that it's got the mesh wrapping it with the glue on it as well. So that's our two little pedals. Keep doing that, I'm really sorry. Again, when that's painted up, I think it's going to really make a difference. So that's those two there. The next job I'm going to look at is applying the glue to these two side panels. And there's only one way these can go on. The holes are aligned so that in the little brass plate and that. And I think we can get these glued on now, because once the main floor plate is ready, I'm committing, I'm going to actually install that before I install the main floor onto the chassis. So we might as well do these now and get those in the clamp, and so the glue can go off on those. So I'm going to use the same contact adhesive. I'm just going to have a look, make sure that I don't go mad with the glue. That's fine. So I'm just going to apply the glue on the back of the brass. I'm going to spread it around a bit. I'm going to leave that for a few minutes. Been very liberal with the glue here. Tell you what, it goes without saying, you should really sort of make sure you apply this glue in quite a well ventilated area, because it's quite obnoxious, the smell coming off of that. Right, I'm going to leave that for about a minute until it becomes a little bit tacky, and then we can apply it to these panels. Right, I think we're about ready. So just going to apply that panel on there, move it around a little bit just to spread the glue a little bit. There's a little bit of bowing in this brass panel, as there was in the main floor panel. So I'm just going to use a bit of timber. Just make sure that that's all perfectly aligned, and it is. Just a small bit. And just put a clamp on that. Just think we need the clamp just to flatten that out. So that's that one. Sorry, because I've zoomed the camera in so much, it's probably hard to see. Let's see if I can. Maybe that's about right. Do the same to this. Again, just move that around a little bit, just to spread the glue around. Line up the hole, line up the edges. That's still fine. And then just clamp that in place. So we'll leave those go off. When they're gone off, we can start thinking about getting them installed onto the main floor plate. Okay, so this is the floor plate back from the clamps, and the glues work quite well actually, but what I've done here is I put 3 of the fixings in along the top here, because 2 reasons. One is to help me clamp this together, and 2, I'm going to paint this with the fixings on before I put it onto the main floor, because I don't want to see these fixings, so they need to be painted as well. I've got a little bit of displacement going on here, but I'll just inject a bit of glue into that before I do anything else, or once I've put all the other parts on, and then I'm going to leave that overnight because I'm not going to get this painted in today's video. Right, let's do I think we'll probably do these pedals to start with here. So there's a plate that goes on the back like that. One thing I need to do is just that the alignment isn't perfect in these holes here. So I'm just going to use this very small little rasp, circular rasp, just to... The top edge is pretty good, but it's just a couple of millimeters. Because this is a soft metal, this little rasp is perfect. Won't be doing anything other than just cleaning the holes up a little bit. So that's that. Right, this plate is screwed in from the front, and it's orientated so that you have the 2 screw holes on the bottom here, the 2 holes for the 2 pedals, and then the accelerator, which I think is the accelerator, on the right hand side as I'm looking at it here. First things first, let's just put a couple of fixings through, pick up the back of that plate, keep it nice and loose. That's it. I'm going to keep it nice and loose. I think what I might do is just zoom the camera in a bit, but I'll turn the camera off and then I'll come back on. I think that's a better angle, isn't it? Right. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to super glue these in place, and I'm going to keep this loose while I'm doing this, but I'm going to push that through to start with. Then what I want to do is make sure I don't go too far past the bracket on the back, because I don't know what's going to end up clashing with. So what I'm tempted to do now is push it through, put some glue on the shaft, then pull that through, square that pedal up like that. So I don't want it going past the back of the bracket, because I've no idea what it's ultimately going to end up clashing with when it goes onto the vehicle. Just a bit of time to play with that. Just making sure I rotate that around so that it's in its right orientation. So that is that. Next pedal, just going to make sure that that goes in as easy as that one did. Oh, it's a bit tight. So I've kept them fairly loose on the back. Okay, so that will go in. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Just putting the glue on the back. Pull that pedal through and align. Like that. And then the only other thing we need to put on there is the accelerator. That'll go almost vertically like that. That hole's a little bit more generous, so I'm going to probably just put the glue on the shaft of that. It goes in, slides down. I just hold that there for a second. Again, not knowing what it's going to end up clashing with at the back, I don't want to push it forward too much. So that's that. Now I'm happy to tighten that up. So that's the pedal arrangement. Hard to really appreciate it, I guess, until they're painted up and when you see it on the vehicle itself. Right, so that's that. Next thing is the gear block, which goes underneath. So this little block here goes on the underside of this here, like that. And you have, I believe, the short gear stick goes at the back and the long one goes at the front, something like that. Now, because the holes are a good size, I can pass that through like that, and then that sits like that with the handbrake or the parking brake sitting there, and you've got a couple of holes for fixing. I was going to put the plate in and then fix it, but I think I'm quite happy because of the size of the holes here. I think I can put all this together, and then just make sure you've got the orientation right, so that the two holes are diagonally with the screw hole at the back here, and then diagonally opposite for the two gear shifts. Right, so let's have a look. I think we can probably glue these in before they go in. And again, I don't know what this is going to clash with underneath, because I've got a lot of cables running through the vehicle, so I'm going to keep those. I mean, it seems quite tall, but I guess, don't know. I need to check the instructions, I guess. But there's no real guide to how far you should set these. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the instructions and then I'll come back. Yep, no instructions whatsoever for the height of these. I'm guessing as long as we've got them flat and they're not protruding underneath, they'll be fine. So let's just make sure I've got everything all right, and I'm happy with that. So here we go. We're going to commit, and I am going to paint everything the same colour in Dunkelgelb, and then once everything's painted and dried, I'm going to go and pick out the little gear knob at the top and paint that in the black. I did contemplate removing the gear knob that Armortek send with the vehicle and then using one of those studs to match the dashboard, but I've decided against that. I should be able to pick this up. And also I'm going to paint all of this. Everything's going to be painted ahead of me putting it onto the vehicle to make life quite or relatively easy for me. So now the next thing is this here gets fixed into the side like that. Now I don't know whether there's supposed to be some articulation in this. My gut tells me yes. So I'm just going to put a little bit of thread locker on that. Move that around, and then when that thread locker goes off, I can move that, but it's probably too much. So I think we'll tighten it off for now. Let's look and see what that looks like. Move that back. Move it forward. That's kind of how it looks, like that. I think I'll probably tighten that off in a moment, but let's get this screwed into position. I did think about putting some rubber gaskets around here, but then when I checked my photographs, there's nothing like that. It's pretty much as it's finished. Again, I know, listen, I say this all the time, but this is tricky. Well, it can be tricky, but it's reasonably straightforward doing it like this, rather than having the whole thing on the vehicle and then trying to put these plates on while it's on the vehicle. Don't know how you can do that. Really don't know how you do that. So that's that. Now I'm just going to move that back round, turn that handbrake or parking brake up. I'll put it like that for now. Something like that I think is about right. That's it. All your levers, gear shifts, all in, pedals, all in. Ready for painting. So I just need to have a think about what the next step is, and I'll be back to camera, but I think that's going to close us out for today. I was just checking how these have glued, and they're fine, absolutely fine. However, one thing I've just realised, and it's not my fault, We've added thickness to this plate, haven't we, with this brass etching panel here. These here, from what I understand, are supposed to sit in that reveal, and this part here sits tight up against that. But because we've added thickness to this, I think I'm going to have to take some material off of here. But I'm not going to worry about that just yet, because I'm going to get all this painted, because they effectively sit something like that. And then, yeah, and these get bolted to the front mudguards, or the sort of the front of the mudguards, I should say. So I'm going to see how we get on with that. That could be a minor problem, because we've got, it fits there, but it's just where we've added thickness here and here. So that could impact that. Anyway, I am now going to have a bit of a tidy up, and I will be back to camera to talk about the next step. There you go, another session complete and another step closer to the finish line. And I'm sorry today's video was a little bit longer than normal. I know some of you really like my long form videos, but there are those of you out there that find them a bit long. I'm sorry. But sometimes it's just so much to try and cram into each session, and I don't want to just keep dragging this out. I am really enjoying the build of this model, and I really want you to see as much as possible of the build. So I really hope you are enjoying this series, and in particular today's video. Please let me know in the comments or give me a thumbs up. And if you are new to my channel and you've just stumbled across me and you've stayed to the finish of this video, thank you, and please think about subscribing. Right, so just recap. So I weathered the equipment, the rear equipment section, and I'm really pleased with that. I've done a little bit more, and I will do more once it's on the vehicle, when the whole vehicle is subject to having a full weathering sort of session. We did the mud flaps, which I'm really pleased with, and I've subsequently gone and spot painted the copper studs, and they are in there solid. They're not going to come out, and I'm chuffed to bits how they look. I will do a bit more weathering on the rubber itself, because I think it's just too new and too shiny, so that needs to be done. But I'm going to probably do that when I start weathering the whole vehicle to sort of get it all blended together. And of course we went on and did the plate, the floor plate, and the two side panels as well. Now, tricky, a little bit tricky, only in the fact that getting it bent into shape and getting it aligned and getting it to bond. So it's a thing that, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I left it overnight. So this video has been filmed over 2 sessions, because the contact adhesive that I was using, I think it's a little bit cold in my garage, but it's eventually got there. So if you are going to do this, don't rush it, be patient, glue it, bond it, and leave it overnight. I will need to just inject a little bit of glue because it's still rising here, so I will do that when I'm off camera. And then away from camera, I will get it painted. And you've seen many of my painting videos, so I don't really want to keep doing that for you, but I will get this painted because I'm really keen in the next video to get this installed onto this once and for all. And this will go on the front here. No, it won't. It will go on the front here. This is the front of the vehicle, so I get confused. So that'll be going on in the next video. And then once that's on, I'm then going to run the charging cables, which I talked about earlier in this video. We'll have to do that ahead of me putting the floor on, and we'll also have to do the servo, the secondary servo, to synchronize the steering wheel, because all of that needs to happen really in the next video. And of course that will mean the dashboard goes on once and for all, and then when we've got all of that done, we can then start looking at building up the side panels and the rest of the bodywork, bonnet, side panels for the engine bay, and all the rest of it. And I will, of course, in the next video give you a run through of the electronics as they currently stand. I've still got a bit more work to do on them, but that's where we are. So I really hope you've enjoyed today's video, and just a massive thank you for your continued support. It means the world to me, and the members, those members that have joined, that extra level of support is invaluable to me, so I really do appreciate that. And please, I know it's difficult sometimes, but please keep that going, because that does really help me. And if you are on the cusp and considering joining, please do, because there's quite a lot of content on there now which you won't see on my normal channel. So I'm going to sign off now by saying another massive thank you to all of you, and in particular Peter Windmill, who's the owner of this amazing kit. Thanks again, Peter, for trusting me to build your incredible kit. I'm Tony. I absolutely love building these models, and I can't wait to see you in the next session. See you soon.